And now on to India's diversity. This is a new session on our show and will be presented here by Mr. Kaleem K Dec. Mr. Khawaja is the Executive Director of Association of Indian Muslims in America. Come on close and let's share his thoughts with you now. Hello and welcome to our second episode of India's diversity. Last week we spoke about India's diversity from ancient times. Today we shall fill you in about the era of Muslim rulers. To provide us with a clear picture of this, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Kaleem K Dec. He is the Executive Director of AIM. Welcome, sir, and how are you today?
Thank you.
You're looking mighty sharp in that.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Anytime. Well, I've got a couple of questions for you, sir. The first question is, how did the 300-year-long Mughal era influence our motherland, India?
Yes, that's an interesting question. When the Mughals arrived, they arrived in 1500, and the first Mughal king his name was Babur. When Babur came to India, and he was the first ruler, he established the dynasty. His son's name was Humayun, who succeeded him. When Babur became old, he wrote a letter to his son, who was young at that time, was just taking over, and he gave his son a guidance on how to rule India. And there are several things he said. One thing he said is that empower the Hindu nobles and kings that you work with. Mm-hmm. And he said, never look upon the Hindu population as subservient to you. Mm-hmm. Look upon them as your colleagues. And he also said that, hey, do not try to intervene in their religion or their customs. Let them be with their religion. You may not like it because you are Muslim, but leave them alone. Understand that Islam and Hinduism are two different religions, and therefore respect that. And that's a great advice that he gave. And as a matter of fact, fathers give advice to their sons, but do the sons follow it? Now, the Mughal kings, 300 years, the Mughal kings, 6 or 7 or 8 of them, they followed the advice of the patriarch, Babur. So if you see after Humayun came his son Akbar, everybody knows Akbar diversified so much. Akbar married several Hindu women. He made several Hindu kings, especially from Rajasthan, Rajput kings, as his ambassadors, as his ministers, senior ministers. And imagine that his children's uncle were Hindus, yes, the Rajput kings. So, and Hindu women, he was married to them. In fact, there have been several movies. The famous movie in India called Akbar and Jodha, which talks about Akbar's favorite wife, Jodha Bai, who was a Rajput from Rajasthan, and whom Akbar told, you can build a temple inside the fort and the palace, and you follow your practices and you follow your religions, and I'll follow mine. There's no compulsion for you. And in fact, his chief wife, chief queen, Jodha Bai, never converted to Islam. And her son Jahangir, who became the next king, now his mother was Hindu, and as Jahangir grew, in those days, kings used to have like many wives, like 10, 15 wives. Mm-hmm. Several of his wives were Hindu, because some of them were in fact his cousins. So this is the kind of diversity that the Mughal kings, spread in India. And Akbar is known for his court. In his court, he had the famous musician Tansen, and then he had the famous comedian or raconteur called Birbal. These were all so-called wise men. In fact, about half of his court of noblemen was Hindu, and the other half was Muslim. So they brought that diversity, and same thing goes down to Jahangir. In addition to, in contrast to, as a matter of fact, Puritan Islam, they encouraged what you call the mixture of Islam and Hinduism in common practice.
Beautiful, very nice, very nice. And I love the movie Jodha Akbar, and I was proud to see it because I myself am a Rajput, and I said, wow, what a culture. Well, very quickly, because we don't have much time left, I have a question. How did the Muslim Sufi movement influence India?
Yes, the Muslim Sufi movement started in the 12th century, and there were several of them who came down. Again, they came from outside, and again, the big thing about them was that much as in their home countries like Iran or wherever they were from, Afghanistan, they were told to be Puritan followers of Islam. They said, let's talk to the Hindu saints. And coincidentally, at the same time in India, there was a movement called Bhakti movement. And Bhakti movement's major saints are Kabir and Nanak and Chaitanya. And the interesting thing is that both the Sufis who are Muslims and Bhakti movement leaders who are Hindus, they both dwelt on music. They said, let's not argue or talk about religion so much. Why not we talk about music? So this is a new thing. Qawwali, that in India. Qawwali is a purely Indian song style. It doesn't exist in the Middle East.
That's right. Well, I've got to say this, music is a language of love, and we all have to abide by that, so. But anyway, I know our time is almost up for this week, and this is just so much information, putting it together within 5-6 minutes, it's difficult. So we're going to have you back. There you go, viewers. This was a wealth of information on the era of Muslim rulers. So thank you, sir, for coming. I truly appreciate it. I mean, you're just wonderful with a book of information. To our viewers, join us at the same time next month right here on Fox 5 for another very, very, very interesting episode of India's Diversity. Stay tuned for the rest of the programming.